Greeks, we are back at it doing the King Project. Thank you so much for giving me another opportunity to speak with you guys in regards to Dr. King, some of his great work and legacy that Dr. King was able to get accomplished in a short time. Again, I'm just always giving a slice of the pie of a lot of great things and really just doing a great overview of a lot of different things to really cover this up and make these videos short. But today, let's jump right into the quote. Be a bush if you can't be a tree. If you can't be a highway, just be a trail. If you can't be a sun, be a star. For it isn't by size that you win or fail. Be the best of whatever you are. Dr. King himself, a great speech. He gave that speech at Barrett Junior High School, I believe in October 1967, year before his assassination. Today, I really want to talk about appreciating Dr. King in a different light than we usually do. Dr. King had a lifestyle, if you will, a choice of a lifestyle that he made for us on our behalf for a lot of different reasons that he really had to make a lot of sacrifices for. And I really wanted to acknowledge that today and really acknowledge, really who this person was and what he was doing. We're talking about a person that had his home bombed with his family inside his home. For me, this is a great perspective and really recognizing someone who's really about their cause, about their passion, about something that's really important to them. If you think about whatever your philosophical or religious beliefs are and how you feel about them and what you believe in, are you willing to sacrifice your life? Are you willing to sacrifice your family? Are you willing to sacrifice anyone or anything that you hold dear in order to represent that, such as Dr. MLK did in his lifetime? He dealt with daily impending doom and violence, bodily harm. He dealt with wrath of hate, straight up. And he really, was able to be extraordinary for a lot of different reasons. So I just really wanted to just talk about the impending doom that he was able to fight through that probably was weighing like 2 brick tons on each shoulder when it comes to just waking up each day and really striving forward and really speaking out for others on their behalf and really advocating for that. He had consistent vile threats on a daily through the mail, through the phone, through newspapers. This was something that, he embraced. This is something that he faced, and he was willing to do that for as long as he could, all the way up into his assassination. So, I just think that, when you take a person like himself and you really think about and really think about a lot of things that he did and a lot of things that he had to go through to go about that, it really is awe-inspiring, even more so than, all the accolades and awards and some of the changes that he did and was responsible for in our history. And I just really think that with Dr. King, in a situation like every person, every face, every corner, every room that he went into, and every time he left to go somewhere, he was facing that. And, he wasn't someone that was prepared in a way where he was going to meet violence with violence. After his house was bombed, I think sometime he gave an interview and talked about, he thought about carrying a gun at one point in time, but he said as a civil rights leader, how can he represent nonviolence movement and civil rights carrying a weapon? So I thought that was really like amazing for him. At the same time, I have to say it out loud that, just really reckless too, not to really like prepare himself in a way where he had at least somewhat of some type of protection that would possibly have him here a little bit longer with us if he would have maybe some different choices or had some different people around him. He really faced adversity in the Deep South. This is at a time that lynching, open lynchings, church bombings, segregation, racism, all this stuff was happening, and there wasn't really too much justice happening after the fact. We're talking about systematic, institutionalized racism, and we have people in power, people in influence that were really capable of really taking care of Dr. King in a way that he was really addressing. There were some things that happened in Mississippi and Florida. There were open plots that he knew of. There were certain chances that he missed, probably impending death if his schedule wouldn't have changed at the last second, or if his route wouldn't have changed within some of the movements and marches. All there for you to really appreciate how he really put himself out there in a way that the resilience, the hyper focus, the mental fortitude, and how he really faced this and addressed this. Again, to me, as I was doing my research and really going through a lot of different work, it just was really difficult to really grasp it, if you will. I mean, really grasp his ability to have dignity, and and the ability to be able to have restraint in these times that he was in. Let me give you a quote to give you perspective. This was the same year, I think the same day, he was interviewed after JFK was assassinated. And he was asked, what it's like to, really walk in the shoes. And here's the quote. Often difficult, but when you live with it so long, you almost become immune to being afraid as a result of these threats. Now, that's really easier said than done, living that life, being that person, and really not having that sense of preparedness for violence, if you will, physically, but just really going with your philosophical and religious beliefs to really attack that. He was going into areas right after lynchings and killings and really facing that in a way that it really, again, blows me away when you sit and really just give it a moment of attention. He talked about really the potentiality of him being killed, and he really addressed it and talked about how that he looks at this as a philosophical principle, and this is where he decided to stand. This is what he wanted to do. At some point in time, the interviewer also asked him about his comparisons to what was going on with the civil rights movement and the Holocaust, and he said, well, look, we're basically fighting segregation, not persecution. So, he really was able to, again, have a bigger mindset of what was going on at the time, what he was doing, and how he was in his place in history, if you will, comparatively to a lot of different things that were going on. And I just, again, a man, ahead of his time in a lot of ways when it comes to that. Let me also give you another quote that really gives you a strong perspective of how he dealt with this injustice of some of the different things that happened to the Emmett Till, the MBK killings in Mississippi with the 3 civil rights movement victims that they had down there. On that point itself, when he went down to that particular thing in Mississippi, after 3 people were killed, civil rights people were killed, he was given a sermon, or he was speaking upon what was happening. He went down there, and as he was talking about that, literally one of the sheriffs, said something to the effect that this could happen to you, or you bet you that this happened in a way where he was acknowledged in a way that that person was probably involved, and that was one of the times that he spoke around. That was something that really affected him in a way. But going back to what I was saying, Dr. King really kind of summed it up in this quote here. I've always felt that unmerited suffering is redemptive, and even if I have to die for this cause, physical death is a price that others will have to pay. It is a price that is the price to pay. And he said that in 1963. That was 7 years before his death, before a lot of great things he did in life was really there. So, he could have just walked away at any point in time, especially after the bombing of his house and his family. He wasn't even in the home. He was miles and miles away, and he got the call that his house was in that situation. And I just really wanted to take a moment to appreciate Dr. King and really appreciate the sacrifice, the sacrifice of just, hearing about his house being bombed. And, it's almost cliche-ish, if you will, when you think about him and you think about some of these different things that he was really a victim of, and the potentiality of being a victim of. A lot of these people that were threatening him were uneducated. They were people who were in a situation where they were very zealots, if you will, when it comes to the racisms. And I just think that Dr. King, again, I'm so happy I was able to do this project to really share with you guys a little bit of a slice of the pie of some of the different things that he did for the civil rights movements, the voter rights movement, human rights, equality, peace, and justice, and just how he stood strong with that nonviolence to this core. Chuck Grigsby, G-Unit Worldwide. This is the G-Unit Project. We've been doing this all month long, like I said before. A couple more days left. Tune in. We're going to finish this thing strong, and I really appreciate the support you guys have been giving us. Thank you. Take care.